Is the Birkin just a status symbol? Well, why else would you spend a minimum of £7,000 on the ugliest bag? Cheers! Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Andrea. In today's video, Yota and I are simply asking you the question, but we will of course give you our opinion. Is the Birkin simply a status symbol? This will be a tag video. We will be tagging some of our friends, and I will certainly be tagging some of the bigger YouTubers that have the Birkin. Let's see if they have the to continue the tag. But before we get started, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and if you're coming over from Yota, welcome. And don't forget, whilst you're subscribing, to ding-a-ling my bell, which will remind you every time I upload a video. Remember, a thumbs up and a comment is always very much appreciated, and it helps our channel grow. Before we get on to the question on whether the Birkin is a status symbol or not, let's do just a brief outline on the history of Hermes, because honestly, I just loved, see, this week I have been reading up on Hermes and I have really been enjoying the history. So basically, I'm not going to tell you about why the Birkin was named the Birkin and the Kelly was named the Kelly and all of that, because we all know about the flight and the spillage out the top compartment, and I'm sure Yota will tell you all of that. I'm going to go right back at the beginning, and I'm going to start with Thierry Hermes, who was an orphan. He lost his family through disease and all of that, okay? And he became an orphan, but he was very skilled, as was his family, in leather, sewing, creating and all of that. Anyway, he decided, you know, I'm gonna summarize all this. So he decided to move to Paris, opened up his first shop, and he was very skilled in leather. So he would do the saddles for royalty, people like Napoleon. He would do the saddles, and even then the saddles would take forever to be made. It's not just the Hermes bags, but the saddles did then as well, because he would take the measurements of the horses, he would take the measurements of the rider, he would take the measurements of the saddle. It was all very, very detailed. It was pure perfection when he made the saddles. Anyway, this went on for years, and in 1937 the silk scarves were introduced to Hermes. By 1951, Hermes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, Hermes was a household name. But by this time, business slowed down. It slowed down, people, it slowed down. So they needed to inject more things to promote the company. So this is when they introduced belts and, you know, the scarves and the bags and all of that, but they were all decorated with like horsey things, like bridles, bits and saddles. So by the 80s, with the introduction of all these other accessories, the company grew. It went from 82 million, a mere $82 million, to $446 million. So at this point, they added jewellery and they added clothing, Jane Birkin and all of that, but you know all of that already. So with that history aside, let's get back onto the question, is the Birkin a status symbol? Like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. You know, there's no denying that Hermes is the ultimate status symbol, but again, that's in the eye of the beholder. I asked Rico earlier on today, I says to him, do you think the Birkin is a status symbol? And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't know what the Birkin looks like, so it wouldn't mean anything to me. The eye of the beholder. Is the Birkin a status symbol? Well, the Birkin is the signature bag of Hermes. It can cost up to 6 figures. What is 6 figures, man? What is 6 figures? And it can be seen on the arms of celebrities and princesses and the majority of YouTubers. So, are we willing to pay these amounts of money on the Birkin, the Kelly, because of the history, because we love the bags, because we have been influenced into buying the bags, because they are functional, because of the craftsmanship, because we have added Chanel's, so now we need to add the Hermes Birkin, or simply because we love bags? So back onto the question again, is it a status symbol? For me, because I'm into bags, like somebody that's into cars, somebody that's into property or whatever. If I see somebody carrying a Birkin, I'm wowed. I'm gonna focus on that Birkin. But I focus on a bag before I focus on a person. I know. But because I love bags, I notice bags. But for somebody that's not into bags, they wouldn't readily recognise the Birkin. So it wouldn't be a status symbol to everybody and anybody. You know, you really need to be into these things to recognise them. Same as the Hermes bangles, you know, this just looks like an enamel bangle. But if you're into luxury and you recognise and you're into these things, you know, then it is a status symbol. So is that where it counts? So like Rico says to me, if you walk into a shop, this is what he said to me earlier on, if you walk into these luxury shops and you're holding your Chanel bag and you're wearing your Cartier jewellery, they immediately recognise them, because you know that's what they're around, that's what they see, that's what they're into. So he says to me that they're gonna make the assumption straight away that you can afford these things, so they're gonna give you their time. I'm not saying this is right, I'm not saying this is wrong, you know, somebody might walk in and just want a Chanel bag, but they're not really into anything else luxury. You know, there's no way of knowing really and honestly what the person is into. We here on YouTube see these things all the time. We see all the Cartier jewellery, everybody's wearing the same old thing, everybody's carrying these Chanel bags. Now, seeing these things so commonly is only on YouTube. You don't see them as commonly in real life, like walking down the street, walking into any shop. You don't see that. You know, I have friends that have all of these things. I have friends that are not into all of these things. They're not as common as YouTube makes us think. You know, we think they are because we see them all the time on YouTube. And I think they're more of a status symbol on YouTube as opposed to our real life. So for example, people that see my bangles that don't know what they are, it's not a status symbol to them. It means nothing to them. They are simply a white bangle. That could be Swarovski for all they know. They have no idea of the value of them unless you know. It's the same with a Rolex watch. I recognise a Rolex watch. I recognise all these luxury things because I'm into them. But there are people that are not into them. This status thing, is the Birkin a status thing? It is amongst people that know. And that's it. It's amongst people that know. And on the other hand, you know, never ever judge a book by its cover. That's the other thing I want to say. You know, now you can rent out bags. You can rent a Chanel bag. So nobody really knows. And you know, when you see people on social media, did they rent that bag? Is it actually a real bag? You know, it's the same with everything. You don't really know. So basically, don't buy these things because it's a status thing. You buy them because you love the item. It brings you joy. It brings you happiness. It does something for you. Like when I carry my bags, it does actually, it gives me that feeling. When I look down on my wrist and I see my Jean Claude, even when it gets caught up on everything, and my Cartier, these things bring me joy. My tennis bracelet is not Cartier, it's just simply a tennis bracelet made up of diamonds. It gives me as much joy as any of my other jewellery, but it's not Cartier, it's not Tiffany, it's not a branded name, but I love it equally. I love it as much as I love my other jewellery. And that's what these things are about. It's not about you being at a certain status. Obviously, if you can afford these bags and you can afford this jewellery, you know, it does say something about you, but it only says something about you to the people that know, and that's it. They're things, and it's about what the things bring to your life, to you. You know, at the end of the day, they are things. Are they a status symbol? So I'm going to throw these questions right back at you. Is the Birkin a status symbol? Would you spend that amount of money on the bag? Is it worth it? Is it worth it for what it gives back to you? I mean, at the end of the day, the bag does what any other bag does. The Hermes bag doesn't do anything more. Yes, we can pass it on to generations and generations, and that's because it's worth so much money, so we tend to take a lot more care of something that's worth that amount of money, as opposed to a inexpensive bag that you're going to buy in Primark. You know, you've spent £10 on it, because, you know, I did a vlog that showed everything's only £10 in Primark. You know, you're not going to take the same care of it as you do with one of these bags. But is that due to the quality, or is that due to the fact that we are taking more time, more care over these bags because of the cost of the bags? You know, the amount of leather that's used on these bags doesn't justify the cost of them, but it's everything else that justifies the cost of the bags. You know, you may argue with me that the cost is not justified. I personally don't regret spending money on these bags. Would I buy a Birkin? I absolutely would. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to tune into Yota's video, and if you're here from Yota, thank you, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out the description box to see who has been tagged. If you have been tagged, I dare you. I'm going to link a video here if you would like to see more from me, and if you're not already subscribed by this moment in time, then I'm going to put the A right here just for you to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, happy shopping. Here's to status.